Hi, my name is John Lyotier. I'm one of the co-founders of Left and RightMesh. I wanted to give you a bit of a tour of our space here today. I've had a lot of people ask me more questions about it, so come on inside and take a look. Of course, you can always come by for a beer if you want. So this is Left. We've been out here for the last 3 years in this space. It's treating us well. Most likely we'll probably outgrow it next spring based on our current growth rates. When we do tours, we always sort of start on the far side of the office. So I'm in what we classify as our telecommunications room. It's a pretty regular room with an old board table and some telecommunications equipment. But we always start our tours off here because a few years ago when we were starting to build up some of our internet properties that we were working with, I was sitting there having a conversation one day with Rakib, who's our lead out in Bangladesh. They sent me through these few files, and these files were, I thought, sort of something simple to start with. But it turned out what it was this document specification for our first generation mesh technologies, a little app called Talkify, a little app called Gossip. And he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, Rakib, these are kind of cool. Do you think you can build these product specs?" They said to me, I think we can. In fact, here you go. Here's some APK files that we've been working on. It turns out that the team's been working on these apps in the evenings and weekends to sort of show us something incredible, which is one of our core values. But what was sort of most incredible to me is that not what the technology was trying to do, but that the team was trying to solve their own pain. Every time we have a Skype call with the team over in Bangladesh, they do a few things, one of which would be everybody get off the internet, have to have a Skype call with John in Canada. So they would hop off the internet and then they'd do their thing, but developers being developers, they said, you know what, there's got to be a better way, and they started to create it. A few months later, we had our first version of our Yo application, which is our first generation technology, and we've been building things ever since. But we classify this as the start of the tour always, because the day actually doesn't start here in our offices in Maple Ridge, but rather over with a team over in Bangladesh, which is 13 hours different. So this is a telecommunications room. It's nice and sunny here today, as you can see. It's on a Sunday afternoon, but I thought I'd come in today because there's nobody else in the office today. And also I'm heading out on the road for about 2 months here to see various parts. But let's keep on going and I'll show you what we have. So regular old meeting rooms. This is one of our scrum rooms for our Left Travel division of the company. Left Travel is a lot of our historical side of the business. It's the part that's profitable. It's the part that's paying for the rest of this company. And you can see that we're kind of taking it over right now for some new trade show giveaways. I think this is, I'm a Node Body t-shirts, giveaways for a hackathon we're sponsoring this weekend. So we'll keep on going here. So this room is classified as the Docker room. It's reversing the camera there, but the Docker room is in representation of the team over in Bangladesh. We actually have a picture here that we show people on the tour. I'll hold it up here. This is the tour the group last November, December, when I went out there to visit them. You can see that there's about 50 plus people out there at the time, and we had a nice little hackathon when we were out there. We actually have our primary office over in Khulna, which is not the main city of Bangladesh, but probably the third largest or fourth largest city of the country. Quite more rural, quite more relaxed, very family centric, and a great place to have the other half of our team. We keep on going over here. This one is actually known as the Disney room, and we sort of call it the Disney room for a few reasons. Most notably, we have this picture on the wall over here. I'm not sure if you can see that. This is something that was created by Disney that looked at how the Disney empire gets created, and Walt Disney created this in 1957. But really you have the merchandising feeding TV, feeding theatrical, feeding the film and music, and it's all one giant organization. And we sort of like that from a structure standpoint, that it's, even though it's 60, 70 years ago, Disney had the foresight to say, this is what I want Disney to be. When we created Left back in 2010, we kind of did the same thing. Not that we ever thought we'd be as big as Disney, but we knew that what we would one day create was not the same thing we had at the time. And so we want to make sure that we had an organization built on 10 core values, that's located out here in the suburbs of Vancouver, and really a chance to sort of make a company that we always wanted it to be. The what we did was ever going to be sort of decided along the way, if you will. We had various experimentations, but the one sort of rule that we had is always trying to challenge the status quo and try to do things a little bit differently. One of the reasons we also like Disney from a leader's perspective is that he always really had a chance to imagine the impossible. Apparently he had these things called dreaming rooms where the Imagineers, not the engineers and not the artists, but the Imagineers would get together and they'd imagine the impossible. And we kind of do the same thing. It's kind of coincidentally, I'm not sure you can see these chairs here, those two orange chairs in the room there. When we first got going into space, we had an office downtown Vancouver. And being a startup at the time, you try to do things as cheap as possible. We bought these used at an auction. And as we were moving in, we found little stickers on the bottom that said property of the Disney Studios. So we got old Disney chairs, which is kind of coincidence now. So you can see we have quite a large team out here. I'll sort of pan the office a little bit. Various groups. We actually have 2 new hires starting tomorrow. We have that'll be Dana, who's our corporate communications officer. And we have a new development group over there. But we really try to sort of squeeze everybody into one, I would say not one tight spot as possible, but we like the idea when the people are in a chance to sort of collide in those collision zones in the space. So back over here, we actually have what we classify as our 10-10 zone. Every day at 10-10, we get together one giant huddle, and that one giant huddle, what we try to do is go through your Rockefeller habit style scrum. So what's important news, any good news you want to share, team updates, but probably most importantly what we cover are stats and numbers. We're very much a metrics driven organization, and everybody across the organization needs to know the numbers. So whether that is growth rates, viral coefficients, profit loss, absolutely everything we share. We practice open book accounting as a group, so all the numbers available to the entire team. The only thing that's not known are salaries. Salaries is one giant lump sum, but at any moment in time, anybody can go up and says, hey, can I see the books and I want to see what we're spending on hardware or server costs or whatever. And the reason we do that is it lets people sort of almost be accountable for what actually is going on in the organization, because we're all in this together, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do. So as I sort of go across the office, and I have the office behind me here, you can sort of see on the far wall over there, we have this giant timeline that sort of shows where we've been at for the last 7 years. And when we started the company, we sort of had been a very much a goal-setting type of organization. And we sort of went out and said, okay, by this year we want to achieve that, this year we want to achieve this. And we started to go put down these yearly objectives. And on the far wall right now we have, in 2017 we want to become a B Corp. We were actually certified as a B Corp this past spring. 2018 we want to have 10 million nodes in the mesh. We're well on our way towards that. 2019 we want to meet with the head of state. So if anybody knows Trudeau, we'd love to meet you, Trudeau. But we'd love to sort of, if we're meeting with the head of state, it gives us a chance to sort of say, we must have done something right in the world if you have a chance to go out and meet somebody. It was a tough one to measure from that perspective. Be one of Canada's best managed companies. I think we're well on the way to do that as well. And we want to launch the Left Foundation by 2020. Those are all new goals this past year because we actually had goals up to 2019 and 2020 before, but we kept on hitting them off, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. Bad things, you had to come up with new goals. But a good thing because you're able to articulate the goals, and when you articulate the goals, you reverse engineer what it takes to get those goals. So before we had said we wanted to be recognized as one of Canada's best managed companies, and we wanted to be recognized as one of the best workplaces in Canada, and we were. We've won awards for our workplace culture. We've won awards for the environment and being recognized as a best place to work, live, and play. A little award trophy behind us. But as much as we ask people to follow our corporate goals, we actually have to be able to support our team's private goals. So we have this thing called the DREAM program. You can see a little banner over there. Really what it comes down to is that every employee has dreams. We try to work with dreams. So Sajid wants to take a personal weekend once per quarter. He desperately needs it. He's working way too hard. But really what we try to do is help people achieve their personal goals. Because if we ask them to follow our corporate goals, we need to make sure we can help them and support them in their personal goals. So you have a few different of the Dream Achieved banners along here. Is myself and my wife last year out at the World Wi-Fi Innovation Summit in Amsterdam, where we picked up an award. But really, it's just sort of celebrate success for all the teammates. So in this room, there's books, and uncreatively, it's called the library. And we do believe that in the whole concept of lifelong learning. If you're never learning, you're falling behind. But for myself, my degree was in English and art history. Kind of a strange little background to be running a tech company today. But I could not have gone to my high school guidance counselor back in the 80s and said, so what I want to do is I want to work on this technology that sits on the supercomputer that you walk around with and sends these invisible beams of light back and forth. It's just one of those unfeasible, untenable concepts. So really what we're working on today, the things that we're creating, didn't exist last year, let alone 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. So we're really trying to encourage our team to do that whole lifelong learning. As you can see, we have kites all over the office here, and that really came from our very first day in the office. And we actually, this is some pictures we had. I'm not sure you can see those. Those were pictures from our very first office that we had in downtown Vancouver, where we had this whole construct of, we wrote on the glass wall, sort of a big diamond, and on that diamond we said, okay, what do we need to achieve? We need to hire an employee. And then beneath that diamond, we said, okay, what are those things we need to do to make sure we achieve that one objective? And we basically put all these little sticky notes underneath those big kites. And we looked back, and we had created this whole concept of, I'll go back here again. We created this whole concept of kites. You can sort of see the diamonds and little tails beneath that. And instantly we sort of called up the old Hawaiian proverb of the kite flies because of its tail. If you take care of all those little things, the big things can be achieved. Let me sort of change angles here. So you can see as we sort of walk out here, we're actually working on this new concept called a V2 MUM. So the V2 MUM is the vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measures. We blatantly stole it from Salesforce, who's done pretty well for themselves. But really it's, as an organization, you go out and you set up your 6 month or your annual goals, what you want to achieve, what you want to do. Then each division of the company does the same, and then it trickles down for every single employee. So every single employee has a V2 MUM that allows them to align to the corporate goals. So we have another little scrum room down there, just sort of meeting, sort of brainstorming room. On this wall, we actually have what we classify as our standout or our strengths wall. So we firmly believe that everybody has natural strengths. And rather than asking people to work on their weaknesses and make their weaknesses better, we want people to really emphasize and focus on their strengths. If they focus on their strengths, they're much happier, and that's of critical importance to us. So we sort of map out what people's strengths are, and that way if you know what people's strengths are, you can actually go through and help them or know how to work within another meeting room. You can see Post-its everywhere. We absolutely love Post-its. That's how we get our stuff done. Yes, we have electronics to do things. And of course, probably the more famous of the rooms, it's your classic games room. Every company seems to have a table tennis and a foosball and the darts and your beer fridge. Of course, you got all that. Patio for the barbecues in the summer. We find that if you have a chance to take a 10-minute break every day or a couple times a day, stretch, answer some questions, have a quick meeting over table tennis, it's much better. So you can see our timeline started way back in 2010. Myself and Chris, a whole lot of coffee. And we basically have been going ever since. Got our first patent for Yo back in 2014, getting recognized for the technology, and growing and growing and growing ever since. And here's some of the goals we have. I said you can still see that we're doing the kites today. So what's the objective in 2018? One of our kites is that we want to have 10 million nodes in the mesh, and then you have all the little Post-it notes which make up the tail of what do you actually have to do and who's responsible for doing those things. Yes, we have some agile methodology. Yes, we have Jira and all those proper tracking systems. We find that if you put it out front and center, it becomes much more visible. So the last part of the tour that I wanted to share with you guys is sort of probably the most common area that people frequent with the kitchen. You can see we have nice little family-style dining where everybody sort of gets together for lunch. On the big wall here, just kind of trying to pan back and see it all, one of our product managers, she's an absolutely incredible artist, and she drew this chalk mural during one of our hackathons we had. She decided, you know what, rather than participating in the hackathon as product and coding, what I'm going to do is actually create this chalk art in 24 hours. I'm not going to think about it until the time, and she did 24 hours to do that. You see a lot of our core values that we sort of live and breathe every single day. One of those values that we sort of talk about is community. Yes, we are a metrics-driven organization, and we're even tracking how often we volunteer out in the community. We have the whole concept of unlimited community days. So we actually pay our team to go off and volunteer their time and their energy to make the world a better place. They define community as they see fit. They give us they give themselves a chance to give back, and all that we ask in return is make sure you make it Facebook official. Take a picture of yourself doing the activity, getting involved, and do it as often as you can. We have our legendary Left Do wall, which everybody sort of strives for. Once a month, it's we go through and identify who's the legendary lefty of the month. So who's living our values the most. So it could be something as simple as you see that Cam cleaned out the fridge. Oh no, this is for the margaritas. He also has one over there as well for cleaning out the fridge. So if you find somebody living and breathing values, a quick little nomination is all it takes to sort of acknowledge your peers for doing things. Last two stragglers from our beer clock on Fridays, but most of the kitchen is cleaned up. Last thing I wanted to show is this wall here. We sort of classify this as our inspiration wall or leadership wall, and really it lists a whole bunch of the leaders that we as a company have nominated. So when we first moved into this space, we asked everybody to name 5 men and 5 women who inspired them, who made them want to become a better person. So you sort of pan down there. So once you sort of looked at those people, it could be people from your personal life, it could be professional lives. So for myself, I had as my dad, so he was nominated, but I also nominated somebody like way up in the corner there. You have Commander Chris Hadfield. Where was back? There we go. So Chris Hadfield is both a famous Canadian, and the commander of the space station. But to me, he's one of the world's greatest fathers. Even though he left the planet, he still managed to call home every single day. I think it's kind of cool. So that's a quick tour of our space, of who we are. I hope you had a chance to see some things about what we try to do here at Left. Please come by and ring the beer bell there. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks for your time.